So we always start here after, well, I guess not start, we do the 15-minute meditation. So that's what we'll do now, and I just want to encourage you to find really any way to be for about 15 minutes that feels good for you. So we do have a couple chairs if that feels better. Upright if that's possible for you. Also relaxed. And you can close your eyes if that feels good, or you can also rest your gaze on this little floor we have in front of us to kind of keep the mind awake if that feels better. Feel free to just play with this as the meditation goes on. So it's still the beginning of a year, so we can start with a few longer, slower, deeper breaths just to arrive both into this place, into a new time, era. Particularly allowing a full exhale to release any unnecessary tension in the belly. And whenever you feel ready, just letting go of all control over the breath and just allowing the body to breathe at its natural rhythm. We're going to do what's called a body scan. We'll start at the top of the head, relaxing any tension in the scalp, forehead, allowing the eyes to relax in the sockets, and the thinking mind, the muscles of the brain to relax. Allowing the jaw to just fall naturally. No need to hold it up. Scanning downwards through the neck, the upper back. Just seeing if gravity can just pull the shoulder blades down and back a little bit. This can help open up the chest and allow the arms, the upper arms, the lower arms, and the hands to just relax where they are. And relaxing the muscles of the chest. Scanning downwards through the abdomen and the belly. Just allowing yourself to breathe into this lower belly for a minute. Just imagining that each breath was just softening all the way down through the chest, the diaphragm, into the lower belly. This area can sometimes hold protection, tension. Finding some softening there can allow the mind to relax, the nervous system to reset a little bit. Noticing the absence of sound where there was sound. How does that feel for the mind? And connecting to the contact points with the cushion and the mat. Feeling the weight of gravity and breathing down into the legs, from the legs. Of imagining the energy of the body circling down through the nervous system and the thighs, the upper legs, down through the knees, the calves and the shins. all the way through the feet and the toes. And just recognizing that this human mind is not just in the head, it's wired through the entire nervous system, through awareness, sensations, and presence of mind, which is rooted and grounded in the knowing of the body. So coming into this full body awareness now, what does it feel like to be aware all the way from the tips of the toes to the top of the head to the hands? And from this full body awareness, just recognizing where you notice the breath. This could be at the nose or the chest or the belly. Or maybe it's just the kind of wide rhythm of sensation in the whole body. Allowing your attention to rest on this rhythm with a light touch. And just allowing any thinking, planning, remembering, really to just fall to the background of experience when it comes up. Not pushing away, not repressing. Just being it, allowing the thinking mind to kind of be like a phone ringing and you know it's not for you. We're here together now to cultivate mindfulness, presence of mind. So we can always return to the simple practice of this body and the rhythm of the breath. This is the foundation of practice. So just spending a minute or two to get familiar with your body and your breath as it is right now. When the mind starts to take a train somewhere else, just stepping off of that train, back onto the ground, the solid, steady ground, through the earthiness and connectedness that we can experience in this body. one of the central qualities which can support mindfulness is called equanimity. And what this means is having a sense of balance or poise in the midst of the ups and downs of life, the change in the mind, the swirling emotions of being human, not getting rocked off center. So bringing your awareness to the area of the heart or the chest, breathing through this kind of emotional center of the body. I'm going to offer some simple phrases if that feels supportive for you. Just imagining what it would feel like to offer yourself these simple well wishes, cultivating this quality of equanimity. So may I be at ease with change. May I be at ease with change. May I be at peace through pleasure and pain. May I be at peace through pleasure and pain. And may I be free. May I be free. Trying these phrases on like an article of clothing. What would it feel like in the body? May I be at ease with change. May I be at ease with change. May I be at peace through pleasure and through pain. May I be at peace through pleasure and pain. May I be free. May I be free. So just continuing on for a few minutes at any pace that feels good for you. You can use the phrases if that feels supported. Or just breathe with the general sense of equanimity through the heart, radiating this quality into the body. For this last minute of practice, just radiating this quality of equanimity outwards towards others here in this room, towards others you may know in this life who could benefit from those you may not know. May any benefit that comes from this practice be for the well-being of this community, for the sanity of this larger world, where struggle and change is real. May this simple practice have ripples and be for the welfare and for the benefit of all beings. Yeah, it's a perfect segue into the talk here, because that's really kind of the heart of this quality of equanimity. And I think so often what I hear is, yeah, I don't want to sit, I don't want to meditate because my mind is a mess or it's too difficult. And it's totally understandable. And also it's like, it's okay, right? Like that's part of the practice. However the body is feeling in the moment, whatever the mind is doing, this quality of equanimity is just kind of a practice of making peace amidst whatever's happening, the ups, the downs, the turbulence, the pleasure and pain, training the mind to be less reactive and craving after the pleasant, pushing away the pain, some of the common tendencies. And as I was reflecting on this, one of the first things that came to my mind is I was like just thinking of like maybe pop culture references of like equanimity, and I was thinking about a couple things. One, comedians, when they have hecklers, you know, and seeing, I don't know if you've ever like watched a live show or seen someone when they're getting heckled, and I'm like, God, I could just, and seeing someone handle it really well, where they can roll right off of it with a joke, not lose their poise. It's like really, really impressive to me. I mean, getting on stage in the first place is really impressive to me. And then I also thought about, like sports too, particularly certain sports where there's so much pressure on one individual, like baseball or something like that. You know, it's like you have not only everyone in the stadium, but people across the country, everyone's watching. And to be in the heat of that charged, difficult experience and to stay relatively balanced and throw a strike or do whatever is required. So anyways, these are kind of like obvious, like gross examples of this quality, but I wanted to start from that point to kind of lay it out as like, I think to some degree without equanimity, it would be impossible to be human. This is like a quality that everybody already has to some degree. And like a lot of these mindfulness-based practices, this is just a way of kind of bringing them out and drawing on them. And also, as we were coming into the new year, I was thinking about building habits. And I know for myself, it's really difficult to form habits when there isn't some degree of like a feeling of connection to the practice, right? Like I can want to do something, but if there's not some felt sense of like, this feels good, maybe I should be careful on that word good, but something that feels compelling about it. And I think for me, I know meditation, it's not like I'm in a great mood every day when I sit down, but I think developing equanimity and knowing that to some degree, whatever's going to come up in a 20-minute sit or a 30-minute sit, that my mind can find some degree of peace with that, I think is a huge thing of what keeps me going, actually. Like finding some degree of spaciousness within the racing thoughts or openness within kind of emotional turbulence. Having that reference point is something that's really kept me going. And I think having that approach is key to a consistent practice. So I'm going to share some of the meanings, and this group I do my best to speak from early Buddhist practices, and one of the Pali words is upekkha for equanimity, and this means to look over or to see without being caught in what is seen or felt or thought. And one of the things coming to mind with this for me is like, just offering this up, have you ever found yourself lost in like a decision or an argument where you feel like there's a thought pattern that's like playing on repeat? And the mind wants to keep coming back with another and this, but this and this. It keeps kind of spinning and spinning. And so instead of just continually thinking more and more about it, I find that where equanimity can come in handy is to find some space from the reactivity, untangle the mind from the perpetual thinking about it, and to be able to see things from a greater place of clarity, where my mind is not caught up in it. So for me, that's often like I can think and think and think about something, say I'm trying to make a decision, and it feels like I'm not really gaining any traction. I'm kind of going in a circle. And then sometimes after maybe a meditation practice where my mind is just setting it down for a minute, finding some balance in the thought process, I can pick that thing up from a different place where I'm not tangled up in it. I'm not caught in some of the resistance or the craving that's involved. And I find that there's a lot more clarity in it. Okay, we're going to do something fun. I'm going to say another Pali word, and I'm going to say it, and then I want you all to say it right back to me afterward, because I don't even know if I'm going to say it right. You ready? Tatra Majamata. So there's three parts to that. Tatra, which means there, or all these things. Maja, which means in the middle. And tata, which is the end of that, which is to stand or to pose. So together, this word means to stand in the middle of all of this. And I really like that kind of visual representation of this word. So being in the middle refers to staying balanced or centered in the middle of what's happening. And I like that particular definition because I think sometimes this word equanimity can come off as aloof or apathetic or like not caring in a way. And that whole like standing right in the center of something, I think shows the kind of courage of it, to stay in the middle of difficulty, with pain, for a friend, for oneself, or to be in a hard conversation, and to be able to show up with a certain degree of balance is a great gift, and I think also a skill, and not always something that's easy. And so this is both a practice, something we can practice in a meditation, and also a quality of mind or heart that arises over time from practice. And at the beginning, I think it can be a really helpful way to inform what mindfulness is, because I know often mindfulness is expressed as this just kind of present moment awareness of whatever is happening. But it's also to be helpful to be like, okay, how am I being aware? And I think equanimity helps inform that in a way where I can feel something pleasant, I can feel something unpleasant, and the mind is staying present. I can feel the thoughts spinning off and kind of stay here with the body. There's a certain strength to that quality of equanimity. And as practice deepens over time, equanimity can be kind of an emergent quality which is present in the mind. There's a book written by Richie Davidson and Daniel Goleman. It's called Altered Traits. And they talk about how altered states, like meditation can be an altered state of mind, it doesn't have to be a psychedelic experience, can slowly over time turn into altered traits. So something that's practiced repeatedly, something like equanimity, can start to become a default mode for the mind. When in conversation, when at work, the mind has been practiced in how to stay balanced, and it can come more naturally to it. And so there's also an arc to kind of like the general Buddhist practice. And that is one, you see it in quite a few different teachings where there's kind of various lists that start with qualities of energy and application. It takes effort to be put into a practice and kind of mature into a sense of coolness and equanimity. And even this word nirvana or nibbana in Pali, as many of you come here have heard me say before, it means to take something off of the fire, to take something off of the heat. So there's a cooling quality to this freedom of the mind that's put forth. So rather than a path that ends in ecstasy or eternal heaven where everything's good necessarily, these teachings emphasize a deep sense of liberation, which is deeply peaceful as the kind of the highest goal. And equanimity is said to be a protection from what are called the 8 worldly winds, which some of you have heard me bring up before, but I'll mention them again because I think it's really helpful. This is something the Buddha taught a lot 2,500 years ago and still feel quite relevant. Praise and blame, success and failure, pleasure and pain, fame and disrepute. So the idea being, these are just part of life. The ups and downs of these worldly winds aren't going anywhere. They're still here, still a big part of society. And the idea being, there's no way to get all praise, success, pleasure, and fame. They come with the other side of them. Gain comes with loss, success comes with failure, pleasure, and pain. So the idea of equanimity being a protective quality where the mind doesn't get rocked when there are these ups and downs in life, or doesn't even expect for it to just get all up at some point, as if that was possible. So equanimity is a practice of being unshakable in the midst of a reality which is turbulent and constantly in change. I'm going to read a quote from an elder Buddhist monk, Bhikkhu Bodhi. He says, "Equanimity is the ability to remain peaceful in the midst of both pleasant and unpleasant experiences. It's not indifference, but a deep, wise understanding of the impermanent nature of all things." So I love that last piece. There's a sense of wisdom to it, equanimity as well. It's understanding that change is the nature of reality. And so taking refuge in equanimity is taking refuge in a stance that is kind of in accordance with the way things are. Things can come and go, things can be good, things can be hard, but there is a source of refuge and a quality of mind that can be at peace with that change. So this is kind of a tangible goal for practice. And there's a few lists, one of them being what are called the 7 awakening factors. And it's going to highlight this arc I was talking about, where it starts from energetic and matures into coolness. It starts with mindfulness, being aware in the present moment, investigating experience, putting energy into the practice to bring continuity to it, which can lead to states of rapture, deep joy in the mind and the body through concentration, and then which mature into a deeper sense of tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. So it's at the end of many of these lists in the Buddhist practices, this quality of equanimity. So I just wanted to draw that out. And then there's also these heart practices, one of which we did today, which is equanimity. And there's 4 of them. One of them is loving kindness, probably the most popular, which is like warmth, care for all. Compassion, which is the quality of the heart to meet pain or difficulty. Mudita, sympathetic joy, which is appreciative joy, the quality of the heart that resonates with others' well-being, with things that are going well. And then finally, at the end of that list is equanimity again, this kind of balanced quality of the heart that it's said kind of can balance all these other qualities. So the love doesn't become too giving out. So the compassion doesn't lead to fatigue or burnout. This quality of compassion kind of helps keep the balance there. So the last thing I wanted to cover with this is that this quality of equanimity is not just a way of working with the mind, it's an embodied practice as well. This word chitta, which I use a lot in this group, is really central to a lot of Buddhist teachings, and it means the heart-mind. So it is the awareness which is connected to the emotional realm and the mental realm. And so where loving kindness is wishing things like, may you be happy, may you be healthy, some of the phrases that I was looking up what various teachers use for this, and I wanted to share some of them. May I embrace change with stillness and calmness. May I deeply accept this moment as it is. May my home be a home of balance and spaciousness. May I remain unshaken by life's rise and fall. And may I rest in not knowing. So it kind of gives you the flavor of this, what equanimity can come to mean or represent. And so I'm curious, and we'll get into this in discussion, but just in hearing these, like what quality of heart does that kind of evoke for you, or your felt experience, or when we were doing the phrases earlier in the meditation? I think a big part of this practice is retaining a sense of embodied balance in the middle of both pleasant and difficult feeling tones. I was thinking about this today because I was in session with a client who is an artist, was telling me about plans in March to go to Venice for this art gathering, and then in April going to New York and Rhode Island for these other things. And I watched my mind be like, I want to do stuff like I want to travel. I should have a life where I'm doing. And I noticed my mind kind of attaching itself to the pleasant things he's describing and seeking something that was external to me in that moment. And I watched myself like, okay, come back. Just finished grad school to be a therapist. I think I can stay here, do the thing that I went to school for 5 years, for at least more than 4 months. So it was like a practice for me in that moment, watching myself get kind of caught in what sounded so pleasant about it. So I think that's another thing to consider. It's not just about balance through difficult, but through some of the things that the mind might attach to as well. And then on the flip side of that for me, another thing, I feel like the biggest resonance in my heart of difficulty recently is like feeling like I'm saying the wrong if I feel like I said the wrong thing. I watch how the heart closes down, or if I'm in a session with a client, something I've noticed, I often lean on my hand like this when I'm in sessions. It's a stupid therapist thing to do, but I notice I start pushing my hand into my head when I feel like I've said the wrong thing. And so part of my practice is like, okay, that's just going to happen. Like sometimes I'm going to say things that are not always going to be perfect. So that's part of my practice, is working with that feeling when I notice it coming up and trying to retain some level of balance and stay with what's happening. I wanted to read this little quote from the early Buddhist teachings. Anyone who is unable to join one's mind with these 4 causes or sources of human sanity will be constantly bound by cyclic existence. So I know that sounds a little hardcore, but what I like about it is it's a cause for sanity. And it also, to me, what that quote says is that equanimity is something that, as I said earlier, is very inherent to human nature. And practicing this isn't getting something external, but rather uncovering something, I think, a capacity of the mind, which is already there, a capacity of the heart, which is always there. And this can be a daily life practice in really small, practical ways. So to be in the middle of things, to look over things clearly. And I think that equanimity can kind of be like a really simple North Star of practice. No matter what's happening, an easy thing to kind of come back to. And in many ways, I think kind of sums up a lot of the goal of meditation in a way. And I think it's a way of uncovering something, and I'll just speak for myself, which has been really reliable. When I feel lost, when I feel burdened, when I feel like I can't get a sense of clarity, I find this is one of the main ways that meditation is really helpful for me. Stop thinking so much about it. Not to say thinking doesn't have a place, it does. But I think this quality of equanimity helps me find balance and poise, and a kind of a place within that I guess I've learned to trust over time. Feels like it's less coming from external or constructed ideas and deep from maybe an intuitive place that I really trust. I wanted to end with this quote by another Buddhist monk, Ajahn Sucitto. He says, "The more you want to have peace and stillness, the more agitated and uptight you get. The more you try to get rid of the stupid and ugly mind moments, the more persistently they assail you. After a while, you discover that the only real option is to pay close attention and adopt onlooking equanimity. Then the hot stuff starts to boil off, and as the peaceful intention of equanimity spreads over the mind, a natural inner stillness can be realized. So that's what I have to share for this evening.